Okay, you can start.
Okay, good morning, Professor, good morning to the audience. Today I'm going to be presenting my research report, and the name of my study is How the Error Corrected by the Teacher May Influence the Willingness to Communicate of Students in a 12th grade English class. To begin with, I would like to start giving a little bit of context about the study. This study was carried out in Liceo de Aplicación Anual, located in Santiago, with a course of 12th grade, with a number of participants of 28 students. The first step that I had to take was the identification of the research problem through field notes. The first 2 and 3 weeks of the practicum, I was able to observe and take notes about different elements that were not working, for me at least, as it should be working. And the main element that I noticed was the fact that every time students made a mistake, the teachers' complaint about these mistakes was very negative. So this came up to me with the idea that I was able to investigate about the error correction made by the teacher complaints, and the students' willingness to communicate. Because students, when students received the complaints of the teacher, they got nervous, they got demotivated, and some of them got angry. So, at the moment of searching information about these topics, I find out that error correction and willingness to communicate were mentioned in sources and studies, but separately. So they are not together in one phenomenon. In this way, the purpose of this study is to determine if there are influences that relate error correction by the teacher on the student's willingness to communicate during an EFL class. So the general objective of this study is to explore the influence that may be present between the error correction of the teacher on the student's willingness to communicate in a 12th grade EFL classroom. The specific objective for this study are related to the two variables that are error correction and willingness to communicate. The first one is to identify error correction made by the teacher, and the second one to determine the willingness to communicate of students during class. Regarding to the description of sources, in the theoretical background, according to Galactica, 2017, willingness to communicate has to do with the way in which the personality of people lets them start communication. But it also has relation to what factors are presented in the situation given. In this case, the situation given is the moment in which the teacher made notice students the mistakes they made. And then the empirical background says, according to Walls, 1982, teachers must take into account the needs and abilities of individual students as well as the type of error made in order to make a correct error correction. Then the political background, we have that Mineduc 2016 states that the idea of using the English language is to promote ways in which students can bond with other people and the world around them. So the idea of using English is that students can use it in different contexts. So in taking into consideration the fact that if error correction is making in a not beneficial way, it is not going to work as a bond, as a tool that lets students communicate with other people. In the social background, Fundación Educa 2014 states that to deliver a quality education, the entire educational community is required to have a great performance regarding to the achievements of students at the moment of communicating. The assumptions for this study are first that the teachers need to take into account the way in which they make notice students the mistake they make. And the second one is related to the incidents in terms of motivation and willingness to keep working in the activities that are presented during the class. Regarding to methodology, this study has an interpretive paradigm because according to Orlikowski and Baruti, interpretive researchers thus attempt to understand phenomena through accessing the meanings that participants assign to them. So in this case, wait for a minute. And the approach is qualitative because it says that the qualitative approach and the information gathered through instruments that follow the qualitative approach has direct relationship with the participants and how they perceive the elements given by the investigated field. So and this is how it is related with the study and with the research problem, because through the different data collection materials that are going to be used, I am going to be able to access to the meanings that participant gives to this information. For example, when they perceive how they perceive the error correction by the teacher. Then the design chosen for this study is the phenomenological one, because according to Water, 1991, it is useful to be able to understand what and how people see certain situations in a specific place. Again, in this case, the situation given is when the teacher makes the error correction, and secondly, information can be obtained from the experiences that people are living in the field investigated. Through the different instruments that will be used, I am going to be able to obtain these experiences directly from the field investigated. And finally, it focuses on the individual subjective characteristics of the investigated participants. The procedure that is going to be followed has 3 steps. First, the observation to identify the error correction by field notes, to determine the willingness to communicate in students through the interview, and finally, the analysis of information through triangulation matrix. The instrumentation, as I mentioned before, the first instrument to gather information is field notes, and according to Creswell 2014, it can be obtained accurate information and in an organized way. Besides, it is possible to focus on the greatest details related to the study. So, through field notes, I can obtain specific information that is useful to the study. So for that reason, I decided to use this instrument. And then interview, as May 1991 stated, interviews are essentially verbally questionnaires in which a list of questions are asked. An 8-question interview is going to be applied to 10 students out of the 28 students, that is the complete number of the classroom. And the way in which they are going to be selected to take the interview is the purposive sampling. Because through this method I can take participants that I believe are going to be useful to give me relevant information to answer the research question. The data analysis technique has different steps. First, the categorization of information from field notes and interview, in which there will be created two matrices, one for the field notes and one for the interview, and the information from each of them are going to be codified, and this encryption of information is useful to give a better understanding of the information. And finally, these two matrices are going to be gathered in just one, and from which is going to appear a new subcategorization in the triangulation matrix. and in this way collect more information that is useful to answer the research question. Regarding to trustworthiness, according to what Shenton 2004 states, in credibility in this study is seen through the supporting data that is going to be obtained from the different data collection materials that were presented before, because it provides a faithful description from the point of view of participants. Then, in dependability, it can be said that dependability is in this study through the validity of collection instruments, because it is worth mentioning that the interview that is going to be applied was validated by a professor that has a master in research. Transferability has to do with the variation of the results, and it can be said that if other researchers wants to carry out the same study in a similar context, they should arrive to similar interpretation of the data and results. And finally, confirmability has to do with the clear results that gives a complete description of the reality observed, so that the results are interpreted clearly through the triangulation that will be applied. The expected outcomes, I came up with two contributions. The first one is the advancement of understanding of the students' perceptions by this has to do with the way in which the teacher understands how the students perceive the error correction that is done in class. And then the second one is more concerned about how to express complaints. This is also oriented to the teachers, because it is an important part during the classes, the way in which they express the complaints, because it can be very well. Then, regarding to metacognition, the main consideration that I took from this experience in the internship and research as a researcher is the importance of teachers' communication. Why? Because according to Vygotsky, 1930, all human behaviors finds its origins in reactions to stimuli coming from the external world. In this case, the external world would be the error correction made by the teacher, and the human behavior would be the willingness to communicate of students. So the importance of this is that we as teachers have to take into consideration these factors at the moment of communicating with students. It doesn't matter if you are just giving feedback, or you are grading, or you are taking a test. You always have to be careful to how you express your opinions or beliefs or complaints to the students. Regarding to the seminar, what I take as a consideration is that I have to be more meticulous at the moment of prepare my research report, because I always make some mistakes about EAP rules, the format of the headings, and those kind of stuff that can influence can have a great influence in my grades. And as a practicum, make students an active part of the class, because if students feel that you are making them a part of the class, you are taking into consideration their opinions, their beliefs and their perceptions, it would be helpful to the class, to me as a teacher, and for them and to them as students. Then the strength that I took from this term is the motivation for the practicum and the seminar. For the practicum I was very motivated because in this practicum I was carrying this internship in my school where I studied before I entered to the university. And regarding to the seminar, the motivation comes up because I feel that I am doing something that is going to be useful for teachers or for students when we are talking about the error correction and the willingness to communicate and how they can be related. As weaknesses, I took organization of time because I always have problems organizing my time. Sorry for my voice. I always have problems regarding to organization of time, and the other weakness is the error production, because and in these situations, as well as in class, when I'm doing classes, I'm giving classes, I always have problems because of my pronunciation, my fluency, and and those aspects of oral production. And finally, as challenges, I decided to pay attention to every little detail that compose my research report, because I always, as I said before, I always miss some important aspects, and I think that taking this as a challenge will help me to develop more my skills as a researcher and also as a future teacher. And this learn new strategies about how to give feedback, how to give feedback, classroom management, and some aspects that I have to improve in order to become a better teacher and become, besides, a positive influence for my future students. These are the references, and thanks for your attention.